Xiuhtezcatl, welcome to eTown. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me, and I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, it's good to have you in this building. Congratulations, by the way, on your recent award in Sweden. I understand you just got back yesterday.
Day before.
Day before yesterday, yeah.
Yeah.
And heading to Mexico tomorrow?
Tomorrow morning, 4 a.m.
Yeah.
It's going to be great.
There's a lot of people. There's a lot of people who need to hear you. You've been doing this, speaking out, basically on behalf of the planet and future generations since you were 6 years old. Did you get to be a kid somewhere along the way? This is kind of serious stuff.
It was like weekends, every now and then, like 9 to 5 type deal. No, I mean, I think a huge part of growing up has been trying to find balance with my life as an activist and as a spokesperson, as a voice for a younger generation. Having had started so young, it's definitely just worked its way into a part of my life that isn't really separate from just, it's who I am.
I watched one of your speeches to the in front of the UN General Assembly, and it was really well done. You're really poised. Did you feel that your message got through in that setting? I know there's huge distractions and translations and all kinds of stuff going on.
I think it was really funny because I started off with a prayer in my native language. And they have these little cups that they put on their ear to translate between languages. And so when they heard me speaking something that nobody understood, everybody grabbed this little cup and was like trying to hear what I was saying. And so I think that kind of like woke everyone up. And then after that, they saw that, oh, there's a 16-year-old kid standing at the podium. What does he have to say? And I feel like I'm underestimated at the very beginning, sometimes by adults. But once they see that I have just as much of a right to be here and to share my voice as anyone else, any politician or any world leader, I feel like it gives me a certain amount of, my youth gives me a certain amount of credibility.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I think that it's interesting that it's ambassadors to the UN or politicians or world leaders that you're aiming towards. So it's really more about big picture policy shifts that you're trying to sort of effect, right?
Kind of. I think that's definitely a very important part of it. And if we look at the climate crisis, it's a very diverse issue, meaning that the solutions that we need to create are incredibly diverse. And I feel like part of that, I've had a large part in frontline community activism right here in Boulder since I was like 9. The first place I ever spoke publicly was at the Band Shell downtown. And so I think a large part is yes, the people's movements, the people on the front line marching, fighting for justice. The people out in Standing Rock in North Dakota, that's a great example of frontline fighters that are making a difference. But at the same time, we need policy to change. We need our government, our politicians, our corporations, are the private sector involved just as much as we need activists and politicians. It's about a whole system shift.
Yeah. Now, I know you've also been pretty clear in your various opportunities to speak about the economic benefits of making this change. It's not like you're asking people to like give up a lifestyle or a way of, this is actually going to create lots of jobs, and it's going to make good business sense. Right. But why do you think this is still a polarizing issue, particularly, politically? It seems like this is an issue that Republican administrations are less willing to embrace.
I think it's treated it as a political issue, and I think that's the first place where they go wrong talking about this. For me as a young person, it's not about politics. It's not about money or the economy or about being an environmentalist. It's about the future of my generation. It's about the planet that myself and my younger siblings are going to inherit. I feel like that perspective isn't brought into the picture very often. Just having been in Sweden, speaking to parliamentarians, the deputy prime minister of Sweden, their climate policies are so well in place. They're aiming to be 100% off of renewable energies by 2040. Carbon neutral by 2045, and their economy is still growing. So that's an example of a country that is doing it right. I feel as though there's a lot of money and there's a lot of corruption in place in this country, which allows politicians to continue to deny the reality of this crisis, that allows politicians to stand for profits instead of people, progress instead of the planet. And in reality, they're not separate things. Progress and the planet, we can take this next step forward as humanity by ensuring our existence on this planet.
Yeah. In case you just tuned in, you're listening to eTown. I'm here with Xiuhtezcatl Martinez. Tell me about the lawsuit. Helen mentioned that you and others are suing the administration over the climate.
That's a fun one. That's a fun one.
Yeah.
I am one plaintiff of 21 youth plaintiffs from all over the country, each with a different story, each with a different perspective of how they're being impacted on climate change. We're all plaintiffs in a lawsuit that are holding the federal government accountable for violating our constitutional right to life, liberty, and property. by failing to act on climate change. And this comes from also the public trust doctrine, which is an ancient document that says that the resources are to be held in trust for current and future, for present and future generations. We are saying that our federal government are failing to do their job to protect our generation and those to follow from the climate impacts, and we need them to take action immediately. It's incredibly exciting to see how far it has come. When we initially filed this lawsuit in 2015, the government and a conglomerate of multi-billion-dollar fossil fuel industries came together to file a motion to dismiss our lawsuit, saying these kids don't have standing. And after being reviewed by 2 different judges, they were like, nah, these kids are going to court. and then we did. And so that was news like a couple days after Trump was elected. So everybody was like super depressed and like, oh my God, what is gonna happen in this country? Myself, I'm Latino, I'm Hispanic, like a lot of my community and my family were hurting. And then we got this news and we're like, okay, there's hope. We have to understand that everything that our president will fail to do, people got to make up for that. And that's how it's always been, regardless of whether it was a Democratic or Republican president,
So what happens if you win? You're gonna have your day in court someday. What happens if you win?
We're aiming for May of 2017. Wow. So coming up pretty soon. They're trying to expedite this process as quickly as possible.
And where is it going to be heard? Which court?
Eugene, Oregon, a federal court in Eugene, Oregon. And then from there, if the government appeals, which they probably will, it'll go to a higher court in DC. And I will be testifying as well, which will be awesome. Against the government, which is something I've been wanting to do, I think, for a long time. So as far as to answer your question, if we win this lawsuit, we have worked to create a comprehensive climate recovery plan with James Hansen, who is one of the foremost climate scientists formerly working for NASA. And it's a climate recovery plan that puts a certain reduction in greenhouse gas emissions from the United States until we globally reach a level of CO2 and greenhouse gas emissions that is safe for our climate, for our planet, and for future generations.
Did you describe that? Is it 350 parts per billion?
So the carbon aspect of it is 350 parts per million in the atmosphere, and it's looking at an 8 to 9% carbon dioxide and greenhouse gas reduction annually. So that's going to mean a whole shit. It's going to force this country to shift our energy infrastructure. It's going to force our country to shift the way in which we regulate corporations as well as communities. It's going to be a very long-term plan. We're very excited about the potential of it.
And it's going to create a lot of jobs along the way.
Exactly. And that's one of the biggest parts that I'm trying to talk about and remind people is that this transition towards a sustainable future means more jobs, means a more sustainable, healthy economy. Fossil fuels is something that isn't even necessarily relevant in the world anymore. And obviously, we need to make a transition. It's not like we can flip a switch and then everything's going to come from solar. It's definitely have to be a whole system shift to happen slowly. We have to replace the jobs that are being created by coal mines, by fracking infrastructure in Colorado. But there is a better way to create energy that doesn't threaten the future of the planet, the health of people, and the health of our environment.
Yeah. Well, it's I will say we are all lucky to have you, Xiuhtezcatl, to be such an eloquent and practiced speaker. I know I watched the clip of you on the Bill Maher show. You're getting to reach a lot of people. You're representing a younger generation, which of course is why we all are doing this work, is on behalf of the next generation and the ones after that. I know you're also affiliated with an organization called Earth Guardians, and that's just more kids doing good stuff. Or?
Yeah, and I think part of it is I could go out there as a leader and speak and represent and kind of play my own individual part, but I think the most important thing is to inspire a generation to be a part of a movement of something bigger than ourselves. And everything that I stand for is creating more leaders so I don't have to do this forever, So I can have other young people on the front lines that are helping take the weight off my shoulders by lifting up the world together. And that's what Earth Guardians is about. And I had an incredibly supportive, family and platform when I was a kid that allowed me to be the person I am today. A lot of young people want to be involved, but don't necessarily have that. So Earth Guardians is about offering the tools, resources, connection, and platforms so young people can get engaged at whatever level they want to create change in their communities.
And there's a website, Earth Guardians?
EarthGuardians.org, Earth Guardians on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Yeah. Hit us up.
Okay. And I know that I don't want to forget the fact that you're also a musician and a rapper, and maybe we can get you on stage a little later on in the show.
Oh, that will be fun. That will be fun.
All right. Well, meanwhile, we've covered some ground. Is there anything you really want to make sure our audience gets to hear other than things we've already talked about?
I think that one of the most important things to recognize and to know for everybody that's going to be listening to this anywhere in the country is that I feel like it's easy for people to look at me on a stage or in a video or in front of the UN and be like, oh man, that kid is, doing all these great things and kind of put me on a pedestal. Whereas in reality, I'm a 16-year-old sophomore in high school that's trying to finish this homework and trying to figure out online school and traveling and like I have a girlfriend and it's like all these different things in life, It's like I'm going to continue to live my life and I'm no different than any other 16-year-old. My potential is no different than any other young person, old person, any person on the planet. So I encourage all people out there to get passionate about something, get educated, get engaged in your community. Truly, we are in an incredibly dire time in the world today where our planet is unraveling and there's not going to be anything left, any legacy to pass on to future generations if action isn't taken now. Not just by politicians, activists, or corporations, but by each and every one of us. So you have that power, use your voice, take action, make a difference. And, we got this. Really, we do.
Thank you so much for joining us. Xiuhtezcatl Martinez, inspiring young man, 16 years old. No fooling around. Thanks so much.
Every stage taught me a lesson and it showed me how every mistake was for a reason. It was never for the glory. I'm one stage closer to telling my story. Singing. Not feeling too good myself.
Hi, this is Nick Forster from eTown. If you want to stay up to date with all the performances, interviews, and behind-the-scenes footage, click the subscribe button. Thanks.